Okay, so I've been rewatching full episodes and random scenes over the past couple of days to prep for an objective review, because it's so hard for me to be critical after a first viewing of a series I love, just because of all the excitement in the air. Trying to push away all my Song of Ice and Fire bias, I'll say House the Dragon lived up to my high expectations. I know a lot of people online were saying they're done with anything Game of Thrones related. I don't know if they were trying to get some internet points, but this prequel is handled by different showrunners, and the author George R.R. Martin returns as an executive producer, though I'm sure he was just there for the occasional advising and supervision. My high expectations came from the short stories written that House of the Dragon is adapting. The Rogue Prince, leading up to the Civil War, known as the Dance of Dragons, and the second short story, The Princess and the Queen, detailing the dance itself. That's not all Martin put out supplementary-wise for this era. Fire and Blood, a full-blown book, fills in the missing pieces about the Targaryens that the older short stories left out. Aside from Robert's Rebellion, The Dance of the Dragons is a fan favorite lore-wise. The story is so dense, and the characters are so insane and powerful, making it a fun read. This is the Targaryens at their peak. Some division in the family, vying for more power, was bound to happen, like it always does in history and in fictional works. House of the Dragon's first season is far from perfect, and I've shared some things I found problematic each week in all those videos I've been posting the past 10 weeks, but refrained from making episode reviews. I don't really believe in episode reviews, like I don't believe in making individual reviews for a chapter of a book. A slow and seemingly boring episode could have a really huge payoff by the end of the season, but if a whole season is rocky, then that's just a shitty show, not worth anyone's time. Again, story-wise, this was going to be good no matter what. Just depended on HBO's willingness to spend the crazy amount of money needed to make this happen, after all the uncertainty that came following Game of Thrones' finale flop. This big budget prequel paid off big time. 90+ million people tuned in during the season finale. The hype didn't die down after everyone tuned into the premiere. The audience has been growing. All that money meant they weren't going to cheap out on the visuals and sound. This is the Targaryens in their prime, and the level of extravagance matched. The only way this show was gonna fail, with the lore being so good, was if the dialogue was god-awful or disastrous creative liberties were taken. The dialogue was good. My only complaint was Corlys not coming across as a living legend, more whiny than powerful. But other characters like Viserys, Daemon, Rhaenyra, the Hightowers, and even Rhaenys were fun to listen to. So good actually, that I always had my subtitles on so I wouldn't miss anything. The new scenes that were never in the books were mostly hits with few misses. Daemon being obsessed with a lost Valyrian history fits his character perfectly, but he's also far more cruel in this adaptation and seems incapable of love. Years of running wild as the Rogue Prince was put on pause as fatherhood came knocking. Him and his wife became world travelers as dragon riders, but even then, it wasn't enough for someone as this power-hungry and egotistical. You could feel a little bit of the brotherly warmth between Daemon and King Viserys towards the end of the season, but it was mostly coming from the kind and peaceful Viserys' side. These two actors killed it. Viserys' actor and the writers had to pretty much create this character from scratch because of how overlooked he is in the books. The only characterization you can scrape out of Fire and Blood was his king who was overly forgiving and non-confrontational. That's why him ordering the brutal death of his wife/cousin was so shocking. Her death seemed inevitable, but without even considering Aemma's wishes, he has the Maester carve her open in a last-ditch effort to save the unborn baby. This sticks with the loving Viserys throughout the season. It took a while, but before long, Viserys took back that #1 spot in my eyes as the best character in the show. Daemon and his bonded dragon, Caraxes, are more fun to watch on screen, but Viserys is so complex. You don't get a character as fleshed out as this. Rhaenys and even Vhagar, a freaking dragon that can't speak, were also up there neck and neck for me as favorites. But Rhaenys did take a bit of a nosedive after episode 9. This episode was good for about 50 of the 55 minutes, but contained a few misses, creative liberty-wise. While imprisoned in the Red Keep during Aegon II's hasty coronation, Rhaenys' escape atop her dragon Meleys, killing hundreds of innocent smallfolk just to stare down and intimidate the Greens of House Hightower. The Dragon Pit where all Targaryens, dragons, and King's Landing are housed has a back door. There was zero need for this twist, except to create a big viral moment for the 9th episode. Every 9th episode of Game of Thrones was expected to deliver something big, since Ned's shocking execution in that show's first season. The second season had the Battle of Blackwater Bay, third season was the Red Wedding, and so on. This empty scene for Rhaenys hurt her character. It would have been fine if her actions were explained in the season finale, but all she said was that it wasn't her war to start. It just didn't add up, and makes Rhaenys an elitist murderer. To add context, the writer of the episode came out during all that fan-based confusion to say commoners mean nothing. Hard to like Rhaenys after that, even after all her wise words. Aside from the hits or misses when it comes to change their added plotlines, there's one scene that didn't add anything or take away from the books. Daemon's wife and mother of his 2 girls went out in a big way. Her ordering Vhagar to burn her alive is changed from dying to a failed childbirth while attempting to go on one last flight with her beloved dragon. Both versions work fine and are interesting in their own right, but even worse than Rhaenys' shit show, sudden accelerated pacing hurt the viewing experience of the series. I feel like the writers got down the beginning and end of the season. The middle episodes were deeply flawed. 5 and 6 in particular felt the worst for the pacing issues. The defense I've been hearing of it's just preliminary setting up for the Civil War conflict, so it doesn't matter. This doesn't stand at all. What a shitty argument. The pacing was so bad when it came to Lena Valerion and Joffrey Lonmouth. The show would have been better off leaving them as background characters, and instead dedicating more time to others if time restraints were that serious. Lena exited just for that death scene, and same for Joffrey, who came and went in minutes during that messy 5th episode. These guys are barely characters. The bronze bitch, Rhea Royce, also introduced and deleted within a couple minutes. Daemon hated his first wife, insulted her looks, even though she was hot as hell, and we'll never know why. She hinted at his inability to perform, but is that enough to murder a powerful lady of a noble house? The writer of this story has been asking for 13-episode seasons, who also happens to be a veteran in television. Why not listen to him if so many people are viewing, paying that stupid high subscription fee? Give the writers all the time they need, who cares? They're building a very valuable franchise. Look at Harwin Strong. Does anybody even remember him? There should have been more moments between him and Rhaenyra, the children, and his somewhat rival Criston Cole. The show started further back in time than I ever would have thought. The opening scene is the Great Council of 101 AC, a genius decision, but it led to an excessive amount of time jumps to get us to 129 AC in 10 episodes, so the main conflict can begin. Why I say this surprising starting point is genius is because the overarching themes of deep sexism in a primitive yet fantastical world is displayed beautifully without even having to say a word. Yes, the story is about what it's like being a female heir. Rhaenys didn't fight back when she had some big name supporters like the Starks, like the Baratheons, and her husband, Corlys's house, the Valerians. She lost a vote in that council 20-1. Rhaenyra, who's so loved that the people called her the realm's delight, is more intelligent, more qualified, and just as powerful as her half-brother Aegon II. She won't sit back like Rhaenys and accept her inheritance being robbed from her. She was alive to see how the people rejected Rhaenys, and Rhaenys herself tried to drill it in her head that no one wants to be ruled by a queen, especially lords of greater houses. And now we see the cheers and support coming Aegon's way when he's a usurper. Viserys was loved too, just like his favorite child. He's just not respected enough as a ruler to carve out a new precedent, naming a female heir to the Iron Throne. More good stuff, Viserys slowly falling apart literally, while also dealing with some internal suffering, losing his wife in such a manner for what he believes to be a prophetic dream. His other daughter, with Alicent, Helena Targaryen, has dragon dreams in this adaptation too. Would have been nice to see them interact. I don't know if she realizes what they are, because she does come across a little touched in the head. Viserys is so distant from the younger children he had with Alicent, as opposed to Rhaenyra, who he very clearly loves and favors. He's definitely a black supporter, gauging by his reaction to his son Aemond losing an eye to Rhaenyra's son, being unfazed. Episode 7, where this huge fight goes down. Great episode. Not for the choreography or direction or anything, but how tense the room was when deciding if any punishment should be carried out. Aemond separates himself from the others in this episode by calmly accepting his eyes lost for a good price as a 10-year-old. The only child that seems to have any interest in the Targaryen's traditions and history claims the family's most powerful dragon. As disciplined as he is, even he can't fully control Vhagar, as displayed in that airborne fight for revenge against Lucerys and his tiny dragon Arax. King Viserys wasn't only concerned with his daughter succeeding him, which does conflict with his prophetic dream of his son wearing the crown. Viserys was dealing with that terrible duty passing down to Targaryen heirs to prepare for a White Walker invasion at an unknown time. Apparently George R. R. Martin shared this new info to House the Dragon's showrunners. The Targaryen who conquered the Seven Kingdoms, Aegon the Conqueror, did so to unite the people in preparation for an evil invasion, or the end of the world. Doesn't really contradict anything, except Game of Thrones' horrible ending, so I'm cool with that new info. There's no clear villain in this show because of how Martin likes to create his great characters. None are pure evil, none are perfect angels. Everyone's flawed with the potential for good. Though Daemon and Lyra Strong are really close to that evil villain line. They make Jaime Lannister look like Superman. Craft Eater and the Stepstone storyline was only there to establish Daemon and the Valyrian's characters, not to build up a scary villain. I don't have an issue with his lack of camera time. I can't believe we have a show where King Viserys was a main character for 8 whole episodes, and he would steal the show for a few of these. This deeper side to him having a shocking distrust of his family's dragons that are the only thing keeping them in power added in one extra layer that the books never had, but he's gone now. He will be missed in the second season, with his realm now split in two. I wish season 2 will be coming sooner than the guesstimated 2024 spring or fall. But at least the writers can take their time fine-tuning the script. House of Dragon is of similar quality to the early Game of Thrones. I know people are going to naturally compare the two, so I'll just say this. If Game of Thrones' season 1 is a 9.5 in my eyes, House of Dragon is a 9. Game of Thrones' first 4 seasons would be a perfect 10 if the books didn't show me a fuller, more detailed world with less rush moments. Who would have guessed there was room for improvement? Time restraints and the need to have one big scene every episode has hurt both these shows, understandably. House of Dragon has that same magic that's so hard to find, especially in television. I would loudly recommend this prequel to not only book and Game of Thrones fans, but even the people who don't care for fantasy. And now we wait for season 2, or any other prequel HBO wants to pump out while the fire's burning.